Las aguas están revueltas,
Waters are
forma y fecha del
revolted,
Brexit
the
están
form
en el
and date
aire,
of
el
breakfast
día D para
are
la
on the
consumación de
air.
esta
The
separación
day
se aproxima, se
for the
avecina y aún
conclusion of
nada
the
está definido.
separation
El
is
acuerdo
near,
logrado
and
por May
yet
y la Unión
nothing is
Europea el 10
defined.
de noviembre
The
pasado en forma
agreement reached
extraordinaria
by the
no
UK and
tiene aval de la
European
Cámara de los
Union
Comunes
has not
y
been
de una
accepted by the
renegociación expresa,
House of
pero desde
Commons,
Bruselas
but
se
from
insiste
Brussels
en que
they
el texto
insist
está
that the text
cerrado
is
y solo
closed
está abierta la
and
puerta para ser
only the
aclaratorias.
door for
Sigue resultando como
clarifications is
espinosa la
open.
cuestión referida al
The
futuro de la
matter
frontera entre
referred to the
Irlanda e Irlanda
future
del Norte.
of the border
Este
between
ajedrez
North
es
and
uno de los juegos más tensos
Ireland
que
and
impulsa el
Ireland
sueño de Unión
is
Política,
still
Económica,
pending.
Comercial y
This is one
Monetaria
of the
de
most
Europa.
tense
De un lado se
games in
dice
Europe.
es el más
On one
exitoso en términos de integración, unidad,
side,
prosperidad
it
y
is said
paz,
that it's a more
y de la crisis
successful
no sale otra cosa que
agreement
más
and
integración.
that
Del
crisis
otro,
will bring
porque
more
mientes,
integration.
pueden se afirma
And
que es
on
un
the other
sistema
side,
electrónico y fracasado
questionings are
por desconectado de las
folly
necesidades
and
humanas y
saying
derechos
it's failure
fundamentales.
because
¿Qué
it
escenarios
is
se abren a
disconnected
partir de
from
los
human
últimos
rights and
hechos?
essential
¿Tiene claro el camino que
rights.
transitará Reino
Does
Unido en caso de
the UK have
concretarse este
cleared the
divorcio?
road to follow
¿Volverá
if
como
the
potencia
separation
global?
takes
¿Y
place?
la Unión
Will it
Europea
come back
armada
as a
para
global
sobrellevar
power?
esto que
And how will
seguramente
the
significará un
EU
duro golpe? ¿Qué les conviene a
continue with
potencias como
this?
China y Estados
What is
Unidos?
convenient for
Brexit,
China and the United
fragilidad británica y
States?
estancamiento de la Unión
Brexit,
Europea. En nuestra mirada
frailty,
crítica de hoy
and
comenzamos a
stagnation of the
mirar en el
European
tablero
Union.
desplegado últimos
This is our
acontecimientos en
critical move
países
for
afectados y
today
usted,
with
como
your
siempre, nos acompaña.
participation.
Todo aquello que el gobierno de Theresa May
Everything the
pasó más de un año
government Theresa
negociando,
May
es decir,
negotiated
un
for
acuerdo con la
1
Unión
year,
Europea
that
para
is
hacer
an
efectiva
agreement
una
with the
salida
EU to
pactada,
agree on
consensuada, amistosa,
a
fue rechazado este martes
exit,
15 de
friendly
enero por
exit,
una
was rejected
contundente
this
o
Tuesday
apabullante
by
mayoría.
a sound majority.
432 votos en contra
432
y
votes
202 a
against
favor. Es la peor
202 in
derrota para un
favor.
gobierno
This is the
británico desde
worst
la
failure
década
for
de
a British government
1920.
since
La salvaguarda
1920.
irlandesa es la
The
que genera
Irish
mayor rechazo
safeguard is
y hasta el
the
lunes
one that
21 tiene el
mostly rejects
Ejecutivo para
this, and
presentar una
the
alternativa.
executive
May
has
decía, el Parlamento
to
no ha dado una clara señal
May
de
said
qué es
that
lo
the
que apoya
parliament did
y
not give a clear
necesitamos esa
signal of
claridad
what it
porque
is
cada día que
supporting,
pasa sin
and we need
solución
that signal because
significa más
every day without a
incertidumbre, amargura
solution
y rencor.
means
Y
more
otras voces se oían a
uncertainty
propósito de
and
este hecho
hatred.
noticioso.
And other voices came up
No será
in
posible
this
ser más
regard.
ambicioso. Nos
You can't be more
enfrentaremos a un
ambitious.
retiro
We
sin
will
acuerdo, que de todos modos
confront a
tendrá
withdrawal
efectos
without
negativos en
agreement
todos los
that would
aspectos
anyway
para
will
todos.
have
Nosotros
negative
ciertamente
aspects for
tendremos que
all.
continuar con los
We
arreglos
surely
para
will have to
enfrentar la
continue the
posibilidad de un
agreements
retiro
to
sin acuerdo.
confront a withdrawal without agreement. All I can say is that if we end with an extension of Article 50, we will have to struggle against the next set of European elections. And we do not conclude this in a second referendum, we will have a great surprise. British people can be very relaxed, by I assure you. If you press them, it's a lion roaring. We will be still more challenging. If we have to struggle a second referendum, we will win it for a larger majority. Words come and go. If something is sure is uncertainty, and Parliament is another blockade. Let's talk about possible scenarios and open as of the failure of First Minister Theresa May in the House of Commons yesterday.
Visto que una vez dada la votación que no
After the
favoreció a
voting
May,
did
se
not
activó
favor
una moción de
May,
censura
a
y ello
censor
puede ocurrir sin
motivation was
límites dentro de
activated,
la
and
Cámara
this
de
could
los
happen
Comunes.
without
Esta
limits
es una
in the House
posibilidad
of
abierta que
Commons.
podría
This
sacar
is
a
an
la
open
primera ministra del
possibility
poder
that could
y abrir una convocatoria a elecciones generales
take
anticipadas en
Theresa
las
May
que
from
podrían ganar los
office, where
laboristas,
Labour
con lo cual
could
vendrían
win,
todavía más dilaciones en el
and
proceso
more
Brexit. Si May
dilation would come in the
renunciare, la
Brexit
ruta sería
process.
la
If May
misma,
would
ejecutivo
resign,
transitorio
the
y
same
comicios
would
anticipados.
happen,
Replantea y
advance
rectificación.
elections,
En este
and
escenario
rectification
sobreviviría
would
como
come. In
primera
this
ministra May,
scenario, May would
renegociaría
survive as a
velozmente
first
el acuerdo
minister,
con la
and she
Unión
would
Europea con nuevas
renegotiate the
garantías
agreement with
y
the
lo presentaría
European
a
Union
más
with
tardar
new
en el
guarantees, and
Parlamento
would
el
present
día
it to
21 de
Parliament
enero.
on
Nuevo referéndum.
January
Volver a
21st
las
at the
urnas con este
latest.
particular
Calling for a
podría
new
revertir la
referendum
decisión
could
mayoritaria de
revert
salir
the
de la Unión
majoritarian
Europea.
decision
Esta
of leaving
opción
the
podría
EU.
ganar mayoría
This option
parlamentaria,
could have a
aunque el camino
parliamentary
constitucional
majority,
sería largo y
even if the
complejo.
constitutional
Incluso
road
podría
would be
resultar más
complex.
fácil después de
It
los
would even
comicios
be easier
generales.
after general
Retraso Brexit.
elections. delaying Brexit, postponing the date until after March 29. This would demand the acceptance of the 26 members of the common bloc, and the most probable is that it would be accepted, but several members have warned that it should be the shortest possible in order not to block the European Union's agenda that will have its elections on May 26th. The extension could be by the first week of July. Leaving the European Union without agreement is not a probable possibility because the majority will confront a harsh withdrawal after March 29 without any friendly conditions or consensus. Stop the Brexit threat by May to change your mind. Only in a worst-case scenario. This would mean to reach agreements that today seem unreachable in the British politics. In December, the European Court of Justice left this door open and announced that at any time it could stop the process by activating Article 50. The motion of censorship is a permanent scenario because censorship motions against the British government could be presented unlimited in the House of Commons. If this takes place, of course, as we just heard, everything could just be changed. Let's go to Euronews under the title, Brexit, how does this motion of censorship work in the UK? Article 2 of the Parliament Law 2011 could act if the Chamber does not trust Her Majesty's government, provided the First Minister is not subject to this interpellation and continues in office. If mistrust is approved, the Commons will have a term of 14 days to appoint an alternative government. If this does not happen, an advance elections call would take place. And the important thing is that the last time a government was defeated because of a censorship motion in this country was March 28, 1979, with Jean Callaghan, who lost in the vote of trust 311 in favor and 220 against. Now we go to La Vanguardia, Spanish meeting under the title, Northern Ireland border is the main block for the Brexit. The support of North Irish Protestants in Westminster is a key for May, and Unionists of Belfast do not accept the formula of keeping an invisible border in Ireland and want the region to abandon the community bloc in the same conditions as the rest of the country, because they believe that any regulating difference could affect its relation with the UK and be a future and favor a possible reunification of Ireland. The agreement of St. Holy Friday established a legal framework to guarantee equal rights in both jurisdictions. The Joint North-South Commission has warned that a harsh Brexit would break the 1999 consensus, something that also is feared by U.S. politician George Mitchell, that sent a commission and expressed this. He said, "Do not destroy everything that has achieved." La Reporter has an article recolonizing by Thierry Messon, French intellectual, director and founder of this digital website. And in this article, Messon says that Brexit puts an end to the UK policy as member of the EU. Hereinafter, the UK will come back as a global power. That's his opinion. It is striving for recovering its Anglo-Saxon power, and London is trying to open 2 permanent military bases, the first in Asia, Singapore, Brunei, and the second in Latin America, probably in Guyana, former UK colony, to participate in the new Rumsfeld-Zablonsky strategy, non-implied in the process of globalization. The war in Latin America would start with an invasion to Venezuela by Colombia Brazil with a pro-Israel regime, and Guyana still under British control. And this is notable and is manifest. That is the analysis that Thierry Meyssan makes, which we will analyze later with our guests. This is a very complex situation, and we're looking at the variety of scenarios that are open. We will now contact the place of the news with our correspondent, Pablo Navarrete. Greetings from London to all Telesur viewers. Today, First Minister Theresa May will propose a motion of censorship towards her government after her sound defeat of the breakfast that was voted yesterday in the UK Parliament. The government lost by 230 votes, which is the largest loss in the recent British history. The last one was around 166 votes in 1920. In normal circumstances, Theresa May would have had to resign after this defeat. But what makes this situation special is that Theresa May's electoral terms is Labour's Jeremy Corbyn, socialist, that is seen as a dangerous leftist socialist candidate by the British elite, and that includes his own party that does not support his leadership. So at 7 p.m. local time, we expect that to prevent Jeremy Corbyn to reach power through a general election that everything says he would win at this time, it seems that the members of Theresa May's party that voted against her Brexit agreement last night will support her today, and everything tells us that she will win the censorship motion. Nevertheless, the deep crisis of her leadership and inside the government party will continue because European leaders, today Macron said that there will be no significant change to the negotiated agreement between the UK and the community bloc. So in these days we will see where this new deep crisis that Theresa May is undergoing will go and how it will be solved. Because in the last 2 years, they did everything for the Brexit agreement, and with the sound defeat, we see that the government is in power but is not governing. We will inform everything that happens for Telesur. Thank you, Pablo, for those details. What is argued from the counterparty? Ibai Arbeit is in Athens, which is an emblematic place because this problem questions not only the British policy but the model of union of the EU, and Athens is precisely a significant example of why some say that this model has failed. Ibai Arbeit, what does the counterparty say? Good afternoon, greetings to all our viewers. The House of Commons have soundly rejected the proposal of agreement on the Brexit. Predictions said that the agreement would be rejected, but nobody foresaw such a large difference, which was practically double 400 something versus 200. This opens a series of uncertainties because, on one hand, why both the members of a hardest Brexit without agreement with the European, those in favor and those against Brexit. This made the votes of sectors thinking completely different that impair Theresa May equally. Yesterday, versus a motion of censorship filed by Corbyn, who thinks that Theresa May is not able to continue with leading the nation, since she has been, all the proposals she has put on the table have been rejected. But it seems that the motion of trust will not prosper because the members that voted against the agreement are sectors that are not do not agree with Theresa May continuing. The Tories, that is a great part of conservative Tory members, it seems, will support Theresa May even if they disagree with her plans, because they don't want to facilitate an agreement of labourists that are united with the European Union. Jeremy Corbyn, that is much more to the left than any other Labour member. Jeremy Corbyn keeps an ambiguous position versus Brexit. He is not clearly in favour, not to benefit Conservatives, but he has not expressed his opposition to a hypothetical second referendum in case he wins, because his bases are not clear on their position. We will continue reporting in this regard. Interesting to know how this problem on the border between Ireland and North Ireland will be solved. And there are also powers like China and the United States. We will analyze to look at what is at stake, and if the British government or the UK in general has a clear idea of what will happen after this divorce happens and what effects will some of the scenarios will have. We will analyze this with our guests after this pause. Brexit, British frailty and stagnation of the European Union. This is our critical mood today in a question. Let's go to voltairenet.org. The UK assumes its new colonial policy post-Brexit. This article has an analysis and historic investigation and say that in 1956, British and French troops supported by Israel take over the Suez Canal, and the United States and the Soviet Union compelled the Soviet Union to withdraw. This led to the gradual withdrawal of European armies from those territories. According to Theresa May's government, the UK turned to the European Union, which it never thought to incorporate. That policy is now behind, and at present the UK has military bases in Gibraltar, Cyprus, in the island of Diego Garcia, and the Malvinas Islands, or the Falklands, according to them. This is part of the line we were reading, the article we presented as our recommendation by Thierry Messon. This is a Voltaire network. I'll go back to La Vanguardia, because we were asking what would be the position of the United States, what interests does it feel are at stake, and accordingly, what could be Trump's action. He suggests that Brexit would block the trade between both countries. This declaration is not new. It's November 27, 2018, published by La Vanguardia. The U.S. president insinuated that Brexit agreement will impede the UK from trading with the United States. He exactly said that I don't think that First Minister Theresa May wants this, and I hope she can do something about it. Number two, the British government, David Lidington, did not think those declarations were important, and the possibility of the relation between European Union and the United States. Some analysts say that before Europe, the first power for the world for UK is the United States. There are historic, economic, and military allies. This is also in an article before the growing interest of the EU. The United States has decided to weaken the old continent because the British were never in Shanghai, according to the U.S. convenience. This is another opinion. On June 2016, when the Brexit was voted with 51.6 of votes, as of that time, an unprecedented process started, and a complex process, complex to complete. There's a specific obstacle, and we're talking about the border between Ireland and Northern Ireland. On March 29, 2017, the government of Theresa May, based on the Lisbon Agreement, Article 50, that they had 2 years for the gradual withdrawal. Since then, British and Europeans have tried to agree upon the terms of a friendly divorce. They reached an agreement on November 25 with the initial intention to vote in Parliament December 11, but they didn't calculate. She didn't have the majority. She stepped back and promised to come with a better one. But members of her party proposed non-trust vote, 211 votes in favor versus 110. Following that, Theresa May traveled along Europe to propose make her proposition, although most European countries said that they were not willing to reopen negotiations. What we agreed on November 25 is the best agreement. There is no space for renegotiation, but for clarifications. May returned on January 15 with the agreement, knowing she has January 21st as the term. And she is trying to convince her own parliament that that is the most convenient agreement. The topic about Ireland, member of the European Union and North Ireland, part of UK, Brussels agreed to avoid a physical border. Therefore, they called agreed on the backstop, that is the transitory period that concludes on January 21st. North Ireland will remain in the customs agreement, and the rest of the UK will abandon it. This would happen if by 2021 there is no final agreement on the economic commercial agreement. The members who reject May's proposal fear that North Ireland will be delivered to the European Union. We will now incorporate our analyst from Belgium, Alex Sanfrance, independent investigator, and from Spain, Carlos Martinez, international analyst and collaborator in several international media. Yesterday in the House of Commons, they say that it is the greatest defeat that shows the frailty of Theresa May's government. More than 24 months of negotiations have gone by, and the problems have not been settled on the rules of the game. I would like to know each of your analysis of what could happen after this last fact, and I start with Alex. Thank you for your invitation and greetings to your viewers. The situation in Great Britain, I think there is a nationalist vision, in my opinion, that is being generalized in Europe because of the illusion that an exit, a sovereign exit, will represent a benefit for the peoples, in this case the British people. This move, I think, is an illusion because we have seen how the British people, throughout all this process that has more than 2 years, is undoubtedly tired of the situation. We have seen a series of long, lengthy negotiations, very difficult negotiations between the UK representatives and the British government. How Brexit has divided the parties, even the Conservative Party and government, but also in a cross-cut way, the political class in Great Britain. So I think that the thing is that the British people should become more aware of its class interests. Since this rejection results after a proposal that was essentially imposed by the European Union. Let's remember that just before the proposed agreement was reported, there was a meeting among the most important European industrials that had interest in Great Britain and met Theresa May. And after this meeting, they made this proposed agreement that was now rejected by the Parliament. So the perspective of a non-agreement will not be simple either. Therefore, I think this shows that the idea of abandoning the European Union in a sovereign step has several contradictions, and that the backstage tells us that for the millions of people in poverty in Great Britain and these austerity policies will not be solved overnight with Brexit. Before I give the floor to Carlos, I would like you to clarify something on one phrase. The British people has to become more aware about class interests. Do you believe that there is no awareness in this regard?
La verdad es que
the truth is that this mechanism of the referendum is being extended in the European policy in several countries. The last example is being performed by France with the social movement. There is a new legitimate movement that wants to participate for a true participative democracy, which is something that the French people and the European people do not know because it's a representative model they have. So the important thing in a referendum is who handles or who conducts the debate and the language. What the conditions for the debate are, if they really know what is at stake. So when a referendum is proposed, a simple question leaves many things out of perspective. And I think that for this reason, there are other modalities of making a participative democracy effective. And to conclude with the referendum, in the case of Brexit, we have seen the participation of a millionaire that is being investigated at present on the manipulation through social networks regarding the illegal funding of the campaign in favor of Brexit, financed by a millionaire with interests behind, and that runs an agency of a U.S. corporation. So if you don't have you don't control the information, it's very difficult to choose
condiciones
or
realmente
elect
ser dueño de
in
su destino. Yo creo que la
be the
información
owner
es
of their
clave en este tipo
destination, and I
de
think that
situaciones.
information is
Sumo a
key
Carlos
in this.
Martínez desde España
I
y le
add
pregunto,
Carlos
Carlos, además
Martinez
de
from
darle la bienvenida y
Spain.
agradecerle como siempre el tiempo
I
que
thank
concede a
you
nuestra
again for
audiencia,
your time.
sobre lo
I would
siguiente, el
like to
presidente del
ask
gobierno
you,
español, Pedro Sánchez, en el
Pedro
último
Sanchez,
trimestre del año
Spanish
pasado decía,
president,
hay
in the
una
first
ventana
quarter
de
of last
oportunidad
year
para la
says
Unión
there is
Europea
a
con todo
window of
esto de la crisis
opportunity
que se está
for the
presentando y
European
tal vez
Union
podríamos
with a
sorprendernos,
crisis, and
palabras más,
perhaps we
palabras menos,
could
decía,
be
y que se
surprised
vea más fortalecida la integración.
and
Entonces quiero
integration
preguntarle en clave de
will be
cuestionamiento
strengthened.
del modelo
So I
comunitario.
would like to ask you about the community model.
Hola, buenas tardes.
Good afternoon.
Yo creo que el Brexit
I
es un
think that
agotamiento del modelo
this
comunitario,
is an
pero algo más allá.
exhaustion of the
Es
community
el
model, but
agotamiento
something
de un
else.
modelo
An
político
exhaustion of
basado
a
en una
political
economía
model
capitalista
based
de
on a
libre mercado
capitalistic free
que
market
hoy por hoy,
economy
nos guste o nos
that,
guste,
to
está
this day,
globalizada.
whether we
¿Eso qué
like it or
significa?
not, is
Pues igual que el
globalized.
feudalismo
This
supuso
means that
un obstáculo
as
para el
feudalism was an
capitalismo
obstacle
por
for
estar de fronteras interiores,
capitalism,
el capitalismo hoy es
capitalism
mundial,
today
los
is
recursos naturales
worldwide.
y los
Natural
capitales
resources,
circulan por todo el
capitals
mundo
circulate around the
y las
world,
fronteras suponen a su
and the
vez un obstáculo
borders are an
para
obstacle
por ejemplo, para la
for,
inmigración,
for
pero por otra
example,
parte no supone un obstáculo para la
migration, but
recepción de materias
also
primas,
for the
petróleo,
reception of raw
oro del
matters,
sur
oil,
y libre circulación de
gold from the south,
capitales. Lo que quiero
and free
decir es que la
circulation
soberanía, a
of
mí no me vale
capitals.
hablar de soberanía
What
política,
I'm
sino
trying to
hablar de
say is
soberanía
that I don't
concretamente.
like to talk
Europa es
about political
soberana en
sovereignty,
cuanto
but sovereignty as
Europa
it is.
occidental y Estados
And
Unidos, Australia, Nueva Zelanda, los países
the
ricos son soberanos
EU
en
are
cuanto viven de la
sovereign
riqueza
as
del resto de los
they
países.
live from the
En esta
wealth of other
coyuntura,
countries.
la situación
In this juncture, the
del
situation
Reino
of
Unido
the
es
UK
muy
is
paradójica y la
a
crisis de
paradox.
contradicción.
And here
No
comes
quieren
the
más
crisis in
inmigración,
contradiction.
no
They
quieren
want no
que
more
los pactos y
migration.
impuestos se
They
eliminen a
don't
los países del
want
sur, especialmente países
to
más
pay
pobres como son
taxes for
Rumanía,
the southern
Bulgaria,
country
Grecia,
like Romania,
pero claro,
Bulgaria,
le interesa
or
y
Greece,
su
but
modelo
of
económico
course its
necesita
economical
de la
model
libre
needs
circulación de
the
mercados
free
capitales.
circulation of
El
capital
Brexit,
markets.
los problemas del Brexit
The
surgen
problems of
cuando
Brexit
deciden salirse de la Unión Europea por estos
came
motivos
when
básicamente que he referido anteriormente,
they
motivos que además no
they
tienen uno que ver
decided
con
to
otro,
leave the European
pero se encuentran con que su
Union,
economía
but
colapsará
they
y perderá
found that
mucho
their
si hay
economy
un
would
Brexit.
collapse if in case of a
Por tanto, la
Brexit.
Unión Europea nunca se va a
Therefore,
encontrar con una salida de
the
un país,
EU
se va a
had
encontrar con una salida de un país
had
muy
never faced
importante
the
y muy rico.
situation,
Y es
in this
verdad
case, a very
que
rich and important
en este
country.
punto la Unión
The
Europea
truth
debería
is that the
replantearse
European
qué
Union
modelo
should
sigue. Y yo creo que sería
think
un buen
the model to
momento
follow.
si
I think it would be a good
las
moment
fuerzas de
if
izquierda, las fuerzas
the
transformadoras tuvieran
leftist
más presencia
transforming
en el
forces
panorama
would have
político
more
institucional y
presence in the
también
political
en la sociedad
panorama,
civil de
as
Europa
well as
Occidental.
the civil
Lo único que me
society
preocupa
of
en este
West
momento es
Europe.
que, como todos
What
sabemos,
I'm
hay una fuerza
concerned about at
ultraderecha que
this
está
time, there
recorriendo toda
is
Europa
an
y que
extreme
quizá
right
el
around
cambio que pueda
Europe,
venir
and perhaps
tras
the
esta
change
sacudida que
that
está
could come
sufriendo
after
el Reino
this
Unido, España o
uh,
Italia o incluso Francia,
coup that
sea
is
un
going
cambio a peor
around
que posible.
UK,
No sea la primera vez
France,
en la historia de la
Spain,
Unión Europea que
and
pasa esto.
Italy.
Por tanto, yo
So
creo
I
que
think
los
that
trabajadores y las
the
trabajadoras tendrían que
working
ser
class
conscientes de que
should be
vivimos
aware of the
en que
world we live in,
la globalización
and
en
that
qué nos afecta, en qué nos
how
beneficia y en qué nos
globalization
perjudica.
affects
Y
us,
sobre todo lo que tenemos que hacer los
benefits us.
trabajadores organizados de
And
Europa es
globalized
tomar las
workers
riendas
of Europe
e influir
should
más en la política
influence
comunitaria,
more in
porque en caso
community
contrario las decisiones las
politics,
tomarán
because
otros en Europa.
otherwise
Y los problemas que surgen del
the
Brexit serán muy
problems that
pequeños
come
por lo que
from
puedan venir
Brexit
en un
would be
futuro.
very small from those that would come in the future.
Podemos optar entre una
We
Europa
could
que esté al
choose
servicio de los
between
capitales
Europe
o una
with
Europa al servicio de los
where
trabajadores. Y mucho me
capitals
temo que
command
si un
or
cambio se
another one where workers command.
profundizará más
And I
en esa
fear
Europa
that
insolidaria y hecha a medida de una minoría
the world of
y
capitals will
cada vez estará más lejos de
reduce
una Europa unida, en
solidarity,
paz, en el
and
cual los trabajadores
unified
tengan más
Europe,
condiciones dignas
peaceful
de trabajo.
Europe will be more
¿Tú crees
remote.
que realmente lo que
So you
está
believe
haciendo fuera
that
de
what
Tranca
is
dentro del
blocking this
Parlamento para
inside
aprobar este
the
acuerdo que
Parliament
se
to
alcanzó el
approve
25
the
de noviembre
agreement reached
pasado entre Bruselas
last
y la
November
primera
25
ministra
between
Theresa May,
Brussels
es
and First
esto que tiene
Minister
que ver
Theresa
con la
May
frontera
is
entre
related to the
Irlanda e
border
Irlanda del
between
Norte,
Ireland and
o hay
North
otros
Ireland,
intereses
or
allí
are
que
there
están jugando? Hay
other
quienes dicen, por
interests
ejemplo, Alex nos
there? Some
explicaba,
people
es un
say, for
acuerdo
example,
que a
Alex
todas
was
luces
explaining
responde
that
más a los
it's
intereses del
agreement
bloque
that
comunitario que lo que
responds more to the community bloc
se
than
estaba luchando el
what
Reino Unido,
the
¿no?
UK was struggling
Quiero
for.
preguntarte,
And my question, once again, is do you believe there are other interests at stake, or the indisputable problem is the border? It is evident that the problem with North Island is serious because after many years of conflict, violent conflict that killed many people, they reached peace because of an invisible border. There was no de facto border, and this could be reverted and is a problem that cannot be left aside. But besides this, which I believe is a solvable problem, we find that very powerful corporations in the UK work in Europe, and that if there is no change in situation, will not be able to continue operating in Europe. The London City is also very important because it handles most capitals that are European. They could be out of the European Union with that. So there are pressures on both sides. There are also interests of workers that see the European Union as a source of problems, especially in the labor market and productive sectors. There are many opposed interests, and as we've seen these days, the no to the European Union has different causes, and the yes also. In the end, it is a solution is very complex to this case. Of course, the UK isn't in an easy situation, and a solution beyond this, an extension, a 6-month extension to solve this, that is very difficult because there are many opposed interests that sometimes concur by different reasons, and this blocks a political solution. Surely there will be a 6-month extension. Please don't go, because I would like to go back with you after the pause on the position of the European Union. What does the counterpart say? The rest of the stakeholders of this chess game, what interest does the United States have? The same with China. We'll be back after this pause. Brexit, British frailty and stagnation of the European Union. We are back to this final part of this critical move to say what the other actors say. After Theresa May's defeat, there are several opinions. With one or other variant inside the European establishment, I'll agree to keep the reached agreement in last November. The members of the European Commission and Council have insisted that the document is closed and that after this, this has been elected. Nevertheless, after the adverse vote this Tuesday on North Ireland, it's probable that several negotiations will be open for Theresa May to put it on the table again. Some people expected that the agreement advanced. Our thoughts are with the 3.6 European citizens that live in the UK and the British who live in the rest of Europe. In that line, the European Commission considered that after Tuesday's election, the risks of a disorderly and unfriendly withdrawal will take place. We will continue working to assure that the European Union is completely prepared for whatever is coming. The Italian representatives and Pedro Sanchez, Spanish president, said the agreement is the best possibility, and a disordered exit would be catastrophic for the UK and the European Union. Sanchez said that Europe should mobilize to keep the right-wing winning elections. It is essential to have strong trade governments. The First Minister of Luxembourg, who always disagreed with Brexit, said that a clean, quick plan on how to proceed is necessary. Austrian Foreign Affairs Minister Sebastian Kurz said that a harsh Brexit should be worked on close with the UK, while Scotland First Minister said that another referendum is the only option. I am still accompanied from Belgium with Carlos Martinez from Spain and Belgium. Alex, I would like to ask you if you believe that the European Union will accept any of the positions we have described, or will it negotiate or introduce any amendment to reach an agreement that could be approved by the House of Commons? I think that the European Union is to win in this relation of forces. I think that this play of favorable to hard Brexit is based or has some right-wing characteristics. There's the questioning to the freedom of circulation of people. Part of the financial regulation that the European Union has are things that the financial sector in England would like to avoid. They would still like to have access to the European Union without passing through regulations. And the same happens with the environment. There's also this idea among those favorable of a harsh Brexit to avoid reducing carbon dioxide emissions, which is a process in which the European Union powers, Germany, France, are immersed, and they favor an energy model based on renewable energies. And this has a plan that in a certain and has contradictions with certain interests, specifically conservatives favorable to Brexit without an agreement. We must not forget that Donald Trump has threatened Theresa May on several occasions, and saying that the agreement that was being performed did not she shouldn't have signed it. And after this position, we also find the United States that would be benefited from the situation, because the status quo with the European Union prevents the United States from keeping free trade relations or bilateral relations with the UK. As a power, the UK or certain interests of the UK would want to take advantage of hands-free situation. But all this is a game between to rearrange imperialistic powers that are trying to control markets in the world. I think that this rivalry we are seeing between Donald Trump and the European Union I still don't see the people winning in this battle. So for the British people to win, there should be a regulation. There should be a party that transforms the society.
este rechazo del Parlamento pues da la posibilidad
And this
de
rejection
cierta
in
manera
Parliament gives a
que
possibility
Corbyn pues pueda
for Corbyn
tener su oportunidad
to
quizá en unas nuevas
have
elecciones, sería
an
posible.
opportunity, perhaps in
Esto
new
podría ser
elections,
un
and
paso
this could be
hacia
a
una
step
situación
towards
digamos de transformación. Yo creo que sería
a
una
transforming
respuesta
situation.
posible.
I think that this could be
Gracias, Alex.
possible.
Entiendo que el tiempo apremia para ti, tienes otros compromisos.
I understand
Agradecemos
you
que
have
nos has concedido
another
para dar tus reflexiones y tu análisis.
commitments.
Hasta pronto.
Thank you very much to you too.
Alex Anfuns, desde Bélgica, periodista
Well, that
independiente.
was
Quiero
Alex.
ahora
I would now
preguntarte,
like to
Carlos,
ask
que te quedas con
Carlos
nosotros, si es que tiene claro
if
el Reino Unido la senda que
the
tomará
UK
post-Brexit.
has a
Y
clear
quiero aprovechar de
idea
sumar o de
of the
recordar la postura de
post-Brexit
Thierry Meussan, quien dice
way.
que lo que se
And I would
está
like to
procurando el Reino Unido
talk
mientras
about
juega
Thierry
este juego
Meussan's
Brexit
opinion that
es reinstalar el liderazgo
the
anglosajón
idea is
sobre
to
el resto del
reinstall
mundo. Pero
Anglo-Saxon
pareciera que
leadership
tampoco la
in
tendría
the
tan
world,
fácil por
but
las
I
posturas
don't think
manifiestas de
this
Estados Unidos
would
y
be
de la
as easy
República Popular
because
China.
of the
May
positions of the United
visitaba a
States and
Trump
China.
y al presidente
May
Xi Jinping
visited
recientemente,
Trump and
no hace
President
más de
Xi
4 meses,
Jinping 4
aunque
months
sí tiene a su
ago.
favor la posibilidad de
Although
recolonizar
it does
esas
have a
antiguas colonias
possibility of
británicas. ¿Tú cómo lo ves,
recolonizing
Carlos?
the old British colonies.
Pues lo veo difícil,
How do
aunque
you
no
see it?
descartable. Desde
Well, it's
luego,
difficult,
el
but
Reino
it's
Unido es
not
un socio
impossible. Of course,
de primera
UK
clase
is a
de
first-class
Estados Unidos,
partner of the
pero eso
United
no
States,
significa que Estados
but
Unidos
this
le vaya a
doesn't mean that the
ceder
United
una
States
parte
will
de su dominio
assign part of
económico
its
sobre el resto del mundo, y
economic
más cuando nos encontramos,
control of the
como tú
world,
bien has
especially as you
advertido, en
said,
un momento que
in times
que cada vez
where
tiene mayor peso la economía de China, pero también
China
el
has
de
more
los BRICS, y
weight
cada vez menor peso mundial la economía
and
norteamericana.
U.S.
Mal va Estados Unidos a
economy
ceder
has
esta
less
situación,
weight.
parte
The
de su
United States
protagonismo
would
a
not
Reino Unido. Teniendo en cuenta además
leave
otros
its
factores,
protagonism to the
primero
UK,
que
and there
está
are
Donald
other
Trump
factors.
al mando de la Casa
First,
Blanca,
that
que es un nacionalista y que,
who is in
como
command of
quien
the
dice,
White House,
América
a
para los americanos, y
nationalist,
para él
America for the
teóricamente tiene
Americas,
poco interés en
and
ayudar
he
a sus socios
apparently
europeos,
is not
aunque en este
interested in
caso sea
helping
Reino
his
Unido.
European
Y
partners.
luego también la
And
posición
also, we must
física
consider
del
the
Reino Unido y
physical
la historia
position
más
of the
reciente.
UK
La
in
economía
most
del Reino
recent
Unido ha estado muy
history.
ligada
UK
durante los
economy
últimos
in the
50
last
años al
50
resto de
years has
Europa.
been
Y esa
linked to the
economía
rest of Europe.
hace una
And
transformación
that
que
if that economy
y romper esos
lives a
lazos económicos o
transformation
vínculos
and
económicos
breaks
y crear
economic
otros que lo
bonds to
sustituyan,
create
yo realmente lo veo
others
muy
to replace
complicado.
them is
Sí que es
something that I
verdad
see
que, por
very
ejemplo,
complex.
Reino Unido ha
It is
sido
true that
principal
the UK
valedor de
has
Estados
been the
Unidos y de la Unión
main
Europea.
partner of
Por
the
ejemplo,
United
una
States
de
and
las
European
causas que ha habido
Union.
crisis
For
en las
example, one of
políticas
the causes of the
entre Reino
crisis
Unido
between
y el
the
resto de
UK and
Europa
the
es
rest
la
of
cuestión de
Europe
defensa,
is
mientras que
the matter of
Europa se
defense.
plantea
Well,
depender menos de
Europe
Estados Unidos y por tanto crear una
talks
política
in
de
terms of the
seguridad
United
y
States
exterior común
in creating a
diferente de
common
Estados Unidos,
security
eso siempre
policy
ha contado
other
con
from
la
the United
oposición
States
del
is
Reino Unido, que
clashing
ha
against the
actuado como
UK's
mandante
position
de
that has
Washington
acted
dentro de
like
Europa. Si
a
ahora se va el Reino
agent of
Unido
Washington
y
in Europe. If the UK
a
leaves and goes back
vuelve a sus orígenes, digamos,
to
a una
its
alianza fuerte con Estados
origins
Unidos, lo
with
que
a strong
podría pasar
alliance
es
with
que
the
por otra
United
parte es verdad
States,
que Europa
what could
podría
happen is
actuar
that
con más
Europe could
independencia en
act more
política exterior
independently in
y en
foreign
seguridad,
policy
que yo
and
creo que eso sería una
security,
buena noticia,
which
sería un
I
signo
believe
de
would be good
distensión
news and a sign of
en Europa, sobre todo en las relaciones con
freedom
Rusia y
in
también en
Europe,
Oriente Medio.
especially in relation with Europe
Muchísimas
and Middle
gracias,
East.
Carlos, por este
Thank you very
tiempo. Y
much,
bueno,
Carlos, for your time.
evidentemente hay
And of
que
course,
mirar muy
we
bien
must
con mucho detalle los intereses
look
regionales y globales,
regional
es
global
decir, lo que está en
interests
juego
in
en el
detail,
panorama
what is at stake
internacional.
in the international
Despedimos a Carlos
panorama.
Martínez y pasamos ya
We
a
thank
nuestras
Carlos
ideas
Martinez
concluidas,
and go to our
negociaciones extendidas y
conclusions,
difíciles,
extended and
puertas
difficult
adentro, laboristas y
negotiations.
conservadores
Indoors,
enfrentan divididos
laborists
como
and
la sociedad
conservatives
misma.
are
En
divided
este
as the
momento hay un engranaje
society.
nacionalista
At this time,
que
there is a
opera contra los
nationalist
intereses de la
vision
Unión
that
Europea,
operates
porque se
against the
considera que
EU
esa propuesta
interest
de
because they
acuerdo que fue
consider
negada
that
hace algunas horas
proposed
está a favor
agreement
o
that was
responde a intereses del
refused
bloque
respond
comunitario,
to
no
interests
así
to the
a los del
community
Reino
bloc
Unido.
and not to
Si
the
May no logra
UK.
convencer al
If May does
Parlamento
not
con un nuevo
convince the
documento que
Parliament with a
deberá
new
ser
document that should
renegociado de
be
forma expresa y con el aval de los
renegotiated
27 socios
expressly,
restantes, evidentemente la perspectiva
evidently,
de
the
un nuevo acuerdo no
perspective of
será
a
tan
new
sencilla de
agreement is
resolver.
not
Es
as
también un
easy to
panorama muy
solve. It's
complejo.
also a very
Y
complex
esto,
panorama.
todo esto,
And
no
all
olviden
this
soledad, entonces toca
is
mirar
not
también puertas afuera.
alone.
Aunque en la
They must
correlación de
also
fuerzas el
look
bloque
outdoors.
comunitario
Even
pareciera
the
tener más de
community
ganar,
bloc
hay
seems
amenazas
to
de
win.
otras
There are threats
separaciones
of other
y de
preparations inside the European bloc, And if this happens, the success of this community model would be at stake. This is one of the things at stake, the community model, a capitalistic model based on free market. We must be attentive to positions like Germany that some say will have the winning word, United States and China that also start to talk about their agendas. In the European Union, they say, they tell Theresa May that we reached this situation because you wanted it. Don't ask us for our concessions. Is this a challenge to try to stop any wish of separation in the bloc? Another one? Is there a way of stopping them?